follow. So let's get into this intense discussion and see how Abby Phillip backs Mark Short into a corner on Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
I didn't expect the corruption to be quite as, widespread as it's been, and like the self-dealing and the lining of his and his family's pockets. Like that's been a little shocking.
That is so crazy. Imagine like somebody accused you of murder.
Yeah.
And it turns out you weren't guilty of that murder. And then you sue them and you go, you can never prosecute me for murder again.
It's really hard to take either one of them seriously for a number of reasons. The Donald Trump that is here today has been the same person. Like, this is not, maybe the grift is different and maybe it's a little more polished and maybe it's more well executed, but he has been a grifter and a corrupt person his whole life. And so it's hard for me to believe in hearing them that this isn't another part of the scam. Like, oh, let me get off this train now because I see that he's a total train wreck. But you knew this before. There was plenty of reasons. You didn't have to support him in 2024, and the same with Joe Rogan. Plenty of reasons. None of those reasons have changed. And so it's almost like they're saying, oh, I knew he was bad. I just didn't think he was that bad. Well, if you knew he was bad, that's enough reason not to support him and not to help further his campaign. So I don't know. It's just hard for me to take them seriously.
I almost feel too, though, what they're saying is I knew he was bad. I just didn't know he would be bad this loudly and embarrass all of us.
Correct.
Which we probably all at this table could have seen coming to some degree. But the way that he has enriched himself and his family over $1 billion just this year, I think, his personal net worth, has been creative and various, right? Like through the courts, through crypto, there's nothing he won't try. And I think his base is starting to catch on that he is in no way working for them, but is working for himself and his family. And even these commentators are looking at a presidency that is coming to an end while they still have to further their media careers.
Well, Mark, I often point out, obviously, that Republicans made a whole career out of claiming that Joe Biden enriched himself off of his son's, whatever Hunter Biden was doing. We know that President Trump, his net worth has skyrocketed to $6.5 billion since he's been president. His sons are actively and openly in a whole slew of businesses that are regulated by the Trump presidency, cryptocurrency, gambling, or whatever you want to call it. Trump says it's not gambling, but it is prediction markets, real estate investments, Truth Social, all of it. I mean, how do you justify that if you're a Republican?
Abby, I remember being on the campaign in 2016, and one of the most electric lines was the "Drain the Swamp" rally cry at the various rallies. I think American voters elected Donald Trump to clean it up. They viewed that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine was corrupt. I think it helped in 2020 2024 that the Biden family, I think, had taken advantage of taxpayers, with Hunter making money off the communist Chinese and making money off his paintings.
Let's be honest for a moment. If the expectation is that public officials should not use their positions to make themselves richer, then that expectation must apply to everyone, regardless of party or political loyalty. It cannot be considered wrong when one side does it and acceptable when the other side does the same thing. What Abby and Jamal are really drawing attention to is the enormous scope of what we're seeing. This is not about a single contract or one questionable financial move. It involves a much larger network of family business ties, investment opportunities, cryptocurrency ventures, licensing arrangements, and companies operating in sectors that can be heavily influenced by government decisions. There is a reason previous presidents took these concerns seriously. For decades, candidates voluntarily released their tax returns, and many presidents either stepped away from their business holdings or placed them in blind trusts. The goal was not only to prevent corruption, but also to remove any doubt that personal financial interests could influence public policy. The reason the "drain the swamp" message connected with so many voters was simple. People were tired of watching powerful insiders benefit from the system while ordinary Americans struggled to get ahead. But when voters see wealthy investors, influential political families, and people with powerful connections continuing to build their fortunes, while the cost of housing, healthcare, and everyday necessities keeps rising, that message starts to ring hollow. At the same time, trust in government is already at one of its lowest points in modern history. Survey after survey shows that many Americans feel the system is designed to work for the rich and well-connected rather than for average citizens. Whether the criticism is aimed at Democrats, Republicans, Wall Street executives, or Washington power brokers, more Americans are beginning to question whether the rules are truly the same for everyone. That's why this debate is not disappearing anytime soon. It goes far beyond one politician or one administration. It speaks to a larger concern about whether political power is being used to help the public or to create financial advantages for those closest to it. And when leaders spend years speaking out against corruption only to excuse it when it benefits their own side, that kind of contradiction is exactly what drives people to lose trust in the political system as a whole.
I think that Republicans look inconsistent when we don't call it out as well as Donald Trump. I think when you see that basically it's not just, it's Qatar that is funding much of their crypto investments, when you see that Jared is basically getting his money from Saudi Arabia, yet also simultaneously negotiating Middle East peace process if there's no conflict of interest there, that just today it came out that Kazakhstan has mining company that the Trump boys are invested in, and it's being backed up by Exim Bank loans, taxpayer funded. I think Republicans need to be consistent on this, and I think it could be a big detriment to them come November.
I mean, would you agree, though, that what we're talking about is orders of magnitude difference? I mean, let's stipulate. Maybe it's millions of dollars that Hunter Biden made from his business dealings. We're talking about billions.
I think it's bad either way, Abby. I don't want to get into comparison of one. I think it's bad either way, and I think Republicans are right to call it out with Hunter, and we should be calling it out this time too.
I will call it out as hypocritical because what Donald Trump just did last week was, in my opinion, and according to many who've looked at it, including the New York Times, which I know you probably don't agree with, the most corrupt decision that any president has ever made in history, in American history. I mean, first of all, he sued his own government for $10 billion. Then he negotiated a deal with himself, with his own lawyer, for $1.8 billion, but he has complete control over this with some fancy commission of people who his lawyer appoints and he can fire. That is the most corrupt, self-dealing, most farcical operation I've ever seen. And the idea that he was able to get away with it and Republicans won't call him out on it.
Let me just make sure. I just want to also just make a note of this. The Trump administration is also now actively, and they say this is not being done quietly, they are deleting indictments from January 6th convicts that are on government websites, literally erasing history, and doing it proudly so. Nothing quiet about it. We are proud to reverse the DOJ's weaponization under the Biden administration. This is about one man who has an ongoing child solicitation case and came to the Capitol armed with bear spray.
For years, conservatives insisted that even the perception of foreign influence or financial conflicts should raise serious concerns. We heard repeated arguments about overseas business dealings, relatives benefiting from political connections, and questions about whether government officials were using their positions to improve their own financial standing. If those concerns mattered before, then they should matter now as well. The truth is that ethics specialists have long warned that foreign investments connected to politically influential families can create major concerns, even when no laws have technically been broken. That is why administrations from both sides of the political aisle have traditionally worked hard to avoid these kinds of situations. Public trust is not only about preventing corruption, it is also about making sure people have confidence in the fairness of the system. Another important factor is the scale of what Americans are seeing. Housing costs remain near historic highs, credit card debt continues to climb, and countless families are finding it harder to keep up with basic living expenses. In that environment, stories involving powerful political families, billion-dollar business projects, foreign investors, and opportunities tied to government influence are naturally going to attract public attention and skepticism. What makes this even more significant is that faith in government is already extremely weak. Poll after poll has shown that many Americans believe the system is designed to benefit wealthy and connected individuals more than ordinary citizens. When people watch politicians and their family members participate in complicated financial ventures while holding tremendous political influence, it reinforces that belief regardless of how their supporters view it. That is exactly why transparency is so important. If everything is being done properly, then open disclosures, independent reviews, and public oversight should not be viewed as a problem. In fact, transparency should increase confidence rather than reduce it. The discussion surrounding January 6th also points to a larger issue. Every democracy depends on preserving historical facts and maintaining accountability. Whether someone agrees or disagrees with certain prosecutions, there is always a concern when those in power begin deciding which parts of controversial events should receive attention and which parts should quietly disappear from the public conversation. History should remain available in full, not be selectively reshaped depending on who happens to control the narrative at a particular moment.
I'm not familiar with that case or many of those other ones, but I will.
But
I've already.
Does it even matter? I mean,
Sure,
why are they erasing
most of those people shouldn't have been pardoned anywhere. At least the violent ones like Enrique Tarrio shouldn't have. But we'll go back to Keith's point. The Republican senators are standing up to this. That's why they left town. That's why they left town.
Whoa, they left town. Whoa.
And I think,
Big
by the
action
way,
there.
I think I don't like the $1.8 billion slush fund. I wouldn't like it if it was 1.8 billion pennies either. And I think most Republican senators feel the same way. That's the kind of thing you do through a court or through the legislative process, and not through a settlement. A judge could order it, but
what are they going to do about it? What are they going to do about it?
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now that there is an extreme level of dissatisfaction within the Republican Senate conference. It's not just this. I think that's why John Cornyn got Trump's hire. I don't think it was anything about what John Cornyn had done or said himself regarding Donald Trump. I think that John Cornyn was the hostage that the president could shoot politically. He's mad at the whole conference. He's mad that they haven't gotten rid of the filibuster. He's mad that they left town. I guess
my point is, they're not actually doing anything.
They left town.
You know?
Wow.
I mean,
Look,
honestly,
I do think it's sunk.
really
I do think it's sunk the reconciliation
about
bill. It should be a big win for Republicans.
Right.
It should be us being strong on border security when Democrats are weak, and instead it's been totally derailed. But I'll go a step further.
You would guys
Abby,
would
I'll go a
listen.
step further.
Republicans would impeach a Democratic president who did even one of the things that we discussed.
Abby, I'll go a step further. We keep talking about this as $1.8 billion. It's worse than that. It's 1.776
right.
because some clown thought it'd be funny to say the people who rioted and assaulted police are equivalent to the people who founded our country 250 years ago and stood our country up. So I think it's even more nefarious than that. I think that this whole notion of 1.776 is some clever fool in the White House thinking this would be funny, and it's not. But I think it has already derailed.
I also want to say that 1.776 is our money, and this is a time at which people are feeling the squeeze. Gas is more expensive than it's been in recent memory. Our electricity bills are up. Places like Arizona, it is so hot, and we are spending more and more every year just to keep our houses cool. Groceries are expensive, and people are just barely making it by, and that is our money that he is making that decision about, right? He's saying that our hard-earned tax dollars should go to these January 6th rioters. There's nothing patriotic about that, and it is insensitive in a moment like this when so many Americans are struggling.
If politicians are always asking Americans to make sacrifices and stretch every dollar, then many people are wondering why Washington somehow manages to find funding for countless other priorities, while the everyday problems facing regular families continue to go unresolved. That's exactly why this debate reaches far beyond simple party politics. Americans are dealing with grocery prices that remain much higher than they were just a few years ago. Housing has become increasingly out of reach for many families. Credit card debt has surged to record levels, and millions of people are spending a larger portion of their paycheck on basic necessities such as rent, utilities, insurance, and food. With that reality in mind, any proposal involving nearly $2 billion in taxpayer money is naturally going to attract serious attention, especially when there are still unanswered questions about who qualifies to receive that money and how those decisions will be made. Another part of this discussion that deserves a closer look is the process itself. Throughout American history, people who believed they were unfairly prosecuted or harmed by government actions generally had established paths to seek compensation through the courts, negotiated settlements, or legislation approved through Congress. The concern many Americans have is not about whether innocent people deserve justice. Most would agree that they do. The bigger question is whether a process controlled by